All right. You want to reach your goals, which is why they will never happen. Fuck, it's hot in it. Anyways, which is why they will never happen. All right. You must be confused. You're thinking, Guapo, what the fuck are you talking about? Why would I not reach my goal because I want to reach my goal? Like, is that not the whole reason why it's called a goal? Is that not the whole reason why it's called a desire? Well, yeah, it is why it's called that. But you need to realize that wanting something gives off an implication of importance, right? And anything that's extremely important to you that you don't yet have, the more importance you apply to it, the further it's going to run away from you. Because importance gives off a signal to the universe that you do not have what it is that you want. Now, think about it this way, right? Here are a couple of examples. It's always that nigga who doesn't really give a shit about goals, right? Or he doesn't treat them the best, that is always getting the most goals. No, I didn't say the best, but the most. And the reason why, one of the reasons from a metaphysical perspective, from the perspective of thinking on a higher level, would be because he applies no importance to them. He doesn't give a fuck about them. Now, extrapolate this to, I guess, something that's more universal. Money. The people who have the most money in this world are the people who need it the least. That rich nigga who's chilling on his yacht, he's not struggling at all. He doesn't need the 10 million he's getting a month. He doesn't need that shit. And that is precisely why he is getting it. Now, extrapolate it down to the lowest level, right? Think about those shoes that you really wanted or that piece of clothing that you really wanted, right? When you wanted it the most is when it was most difficult to get, right? And after you got it, let's be real, after you got it, you still liked it, sure, but you don't really give much of a fuck about it anymore. You don't really care about it like that anymore. And that is why you have it. And you're probably confused, but because you're confused, or the reason why you're confused is because you have been given the wrong definition of having. So, as you've been, conditioned to view the physical world as, the numero uno and as the big boss and as the, if there's nothing here, then it's not anywhere else, then it doesn't exist. We've got to break that down. First of all, you've got to realize that the physical world around you is barely anything. It barely constitutes a reality because the physical world around you only constitutes 0.0095% of reality. You only see visible light on the electromagnetic spectrum. And visible light is the lowest level, meaning 99.995% of reality you aren't seeing. That means most of the shit that's going on, your body cannot really perceive it. Your eyes can't see it. Okay, so Nathan, what is that other 99 point whatever percent then? It's simple. It consists of the spiritual plane and the mental plane. Now, the physical plane, everything you see around you is simply what you can touch, right? What you can touch, smell, see, hear, etc. The physical plane, we've been conditioned to see it as numero uno, and conditioned to see it as the cause, right? Your brain sends signals to your arm, and your arm moves, right? Nerves, your arm moves. You punch someone, and they get hurt, right? So that is the law of cause and effect on the physical plane. But the truth is, it's only an effect, meaning that every single thing you see in this physical world was first mental before it became physical. Now, you can extrapolate this to just artificial things, human. Those shoes behind me. Those shoes were first in someone's mind before they became a property of the physical world, right? That bed, the idea of a bed, the intellectual property, the idea of a bed was first something in someone's mind before it was what expressed onto physical reality. Another example, on a higher level, the Earth, the other planets around us, the solar system, the universe, that all came from God. It all came from God's mind, and then was therefore physically expressed. Now that is basically the law of correspondence, and it's literally just the idea that, you know, every single thing there is like a corresponding example or a corresponding counterpart on the lower plane or the higher plane. For example, like I just said, cause and effect here, the idea that your brain sending signals to your arm so your arm can move, and then literally cause and effect on the mental plane, where whatever is expressed within the mind, whatever is impressed upon the mind gets expressed into physical reality. Now, without going off too much on a tangent here, what you should know is the spiritual plane and the mental plane are the causes, and the physical plane is the effect, right? So, therefore, importance and wanting something implies that you do not already have it, right? Because mentally, if you had it mentally, you would be thinking thoughts in alignment with having it. And if you're thinking thoughts in alignment with having it, then naturally the importance applied to it is going to have been decreased. And because the importance applied to it has been decreased, you have it. So this is what I mean when I say you should change your definition of having. Your definition of having should not be to see it physically, but to be in alignment with it on all three planes, on the spiritual plane, on the mental plane, and on the physical plane. Now, you may be thinking, you've just said unification and alignment on all three planes, right? And that includes the physical plane. So surely having should also coincide with seeing it in your physical reality. No, having coincides with inspired actions which are impressing upon reality, right? Because a lot of people within the space, when it comes to manifestation, like to focus on the spiritual and mental planes a bit too much, right? Cool, they are the causes, but you have to remember that there has to be unification on all three planes for what you want to actually come to fruition. The mental thoughts, the mental imagery that you're conjuring, right, that you're creating, right, has no power if it is not expressed physically with inspired action. Okay, now I've explained to you that your importance is why you don't have it. And here is another thing: the emotions that are in conjunction with it in your head. For example, you will say you want something and give off the emotional signature of not having it, right? And the emotional signatures of not having it are the emotions within the survival paradigm, the emotions that nobody wants to feel. Because at the end of the day, everybody thinks that they want whatever it is that they want, right? Everybody thinks that they want the physical thing that they can grab, that they can hold, or the love or the attention or whatever, the money, whatever, right? But the truth is, nobody wants anything other than the emotional signature. Nobody wants anything other than the state of consciousness. Nobody wants the money. They want the pride, the relaxation, the ability to feel relaxed, the joy, the confidence. Nobody wants the money. You don't give a shit about the piece of paper. What you care about is what's the emotions the piece of paper can give you, can bring to you. That is the only thing you care about. You don't give a shit about a piece of paper, whether you think you do or you think you don't. You don't care about that paper. You care about the emotions that paper can bring you. Because here is a simple example, right? Like I said, money. Okay, we're talking about money here. You buy a car, After you've bought the car, you are now feeling joyful. You are now feeling confident. Because I guess a car can be a status symbol. You're now feeling confident. You are now feeling relaxed because you've been wanting the car for a time. And now you are relieved because you finally bought the car. So at the end of the day, you also need to come to the realization that what you want is not what you want. What you want is what you want is the emotions that you'll get from physically having what it is that you want. And now, another reason why you don't have, another reason why you won't get what you want is because of what you place your attention towards. Your attention is always on the fact that you don't have it. That is why when you're taking the action towards getting it, you don't fucking get anywhere. Even when it seems like you do, right? Because even when the effect affects the effect, it is only temporarily. When it affects it, or when you think you're getting closer, that's when you fall again. And you're like, what the fuck? I was so close. Like, I thought I was going to get it. And the reason why you didn't get it is because you weren't in mental alignment, right? You weren't in that state of consciousness that you would be in if you already had it. You weren't convicted in having it. And when I'm talking about conviction, I'm not talking about in hoping or, I guess, being really ecstatic because you think there's a chance of having it. I'm talking about being really ecstatic because you know you have it. And when I'm saying I'm saying it's like the same way I know that if I press that light switch behind me, that light behind me is going to turn on. And the reason why I know it is expectancy rather than hope is because there are barely any thoughts in my head when I do it. When I do it, it's almost subconscious even. It's a thing where it's like, I just lift it, press the switch, and it's like there's no doubt in my head before I do that. And that is the point that you need to get to. That is the point that you want to get to. How do we get to that point? Relax. Okay, you're gonna get some. Relax. I'm gonna give it to you. Pause. I'm gonna give it to you. Pause. But yeah, cool. First, in order to get to the state where you are having what it is that you want, you need to understand how your subconscious mind works, right? Your subconscious mind is, it is something. It is completely illogical, right? You could say or tell yourself that you want something, but because of the emotions that you are applying to those thoughts, and because those thoughts are getting imprinted into your subconscious mind with those negative emotions, your subconscious mind sees that as you not wanting it. It sees that as you not wanting it. Think about it this way, right? The language your subconscious mind speaks in is emotion. That is the only language it speaks in. So here is an example. Right? Think about it this way. If you were ordering something at a restaurant and you spoke English and there were two options, you could either had pasta or pizza. Let's just say you're at an Italian restaurant or something and those are the only two things in option. You could have had pasta or pizza. Those are the only two options you can pick, right? You speak English. The waitress or the waiter speaks, I don't know, Italian because it's an Italian restaurant. You point at the pizza and then say in English, I want pasta. The Italian waiter or waitress does not understand what the fuck you're saying because he is Italian. He doesn't understand English, right? Because you've pointed at the pizza, even though you've said you want pasta, he's going to give you the pizza. And that is literally the case in your subconscious mind. Because you're telling yourself you want this thing, right? But while you're telling yourself you want this thing, the emotions that are in conjunction with the thought that you've just had are not in alignment with actually having it, you do not tell your subconscious mind that you want it. You tell your subconscious mind that you don't want it. Because you are not speaking the same language. You need to understand the only language your subconscious mind cares for and understands is emotion. So all of those nights where you're grinding, right? Where you're grinding to get to that point, or all of those 2-hour deep works, 4-hour deep work sessions that you're doing to get to that point, they are not working because your emotional state, your state of consciousness is not in alignment with actually having it. Your subconscious mind is seeing this as you saying that you don't want it, regardless of the action that you're taking. Because like I said earlier on in the video, action barely does just shit without the right state of consciousness. If there is no unification among all three planes, then the action is only going to reflect and only going to express what is in accordance with what is in the cause, what is within your mind, what is within your state of consciousness, what is within your frequency. And because of that, you will be working towards something, or think that you're working towards something, and really you're working away from it, you're running away from it. All because your emotions are not in alignment. When you do work, right, when you work towards something, right, say you own a business, or say you're applying for jobs, or say you're a creator, right, when you're creating your video, or applying for the jobs, or working on your business, it should not be in a state of frustration, anger, guilt, anxiety. It should be in a state of enthusiasm, in a state of being relaxed, right? In a state of being focused. Your attention should be on already having it. Your attention should be on anything within the physical world that coincides with having it. For example, if the goal is to manifest 10k a month, your attention should be on how much money you're gaining, not how much money you're losing. Because the truth is, where attention goes, energy flows. What you apply your attention to only gets a larger and larger magnitude. Therefore, what you should do is begin to develop a sense of self-awareness. Ask yourself, what am I placing my attention to? Or what have I placed my attention to the most today, so far? That is how you can, gradually begin shifting from one state to the other. And now, to make it practical, or as practical as possible, I'm going to give you a technique that you can use in order for you to get from one state of consciousness to the other. From wanting to having. From it being important to it not being that important to you, you barely even thinking about it. First, you're going to want to obviously understand what it is that you want. And what I mean by that is, don't just say, oh, I want the 10k in a month. Don't just say, oh, I want that goal. Don't just say, oh, I want that job promotion. Don't just say, oh, I want that interview. Understand the emotions that you would experience in the case of already experiencing that, if that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, you need to be able to give it to yourself before the world gives it to you. That is the only way you will truly have it. Because whatever the world gives you, it can take away from you like that. But whatever you give to yourself is eternal. Now, once you have come to the point of understanding what it is that you truly want, in the case of the job promotion, you want the job promotion because, it's going to make you feel prideful, it's going to make you feel joyful, it's going to make you feel confident. It's going to make you feel secure because, you know, with a job promotion comes more money. Now, after you come to that understanding, you're going to create a scene, right? And this scene is going to be a scene that confirms that you have experienced what it is that you want to experience. You have what it is that you want to have. Because like I said before, the real definition of having is being in the state of consciousness you would be in if you already had it, not seeing it in your physical reality. Because at the end of the day, you need to come to the realization that the definition of manifestation is not feeling what you want until it comes into reality. The definition of manifestation is no longer being dependent upon the external to be okay, fucking hell. No longer being dependent upon the external to be in internal alignment with it. And what I mean by internal alignment is you won't need it anymore. You're good without it and you're good with it. You're no longer going to look for it in external reality. You're no longer going to look for it in the world because you already have it internally. And because you have it internally, you're going to then, as a byproduct, gain it externally. Now, this scene, you're going to make sure that it utilizes all, okay, not all, 1 to 3 of, okay, obviously it's going to be 1, but 2 to 3, sorry, of your physical senses. Sight, hearing, touch, maybe taste even, if that's what you're into. But yeah, you want to make sure it's utilizing at least 2 of those senses, or 1 sense which you know is your main sense. Because I read I was reading a book, right, and it was talking about how every single person has like 1 to 3 senses that they use more than they use the other. For example, people who like to, it's basically just auditory listeners, visual learners, auditory learners, visual learners. I think it's called kinesthetic learners for people with touch. But anyway, yeah, or action. Yeah, so figure out what senses will be best for you, because at the end of the day, with this scene, the whole purpose of this scene is to abuse the fact that the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between imagination and reality. And how we're going to abuse that is by utilizing the 5 physical senses and thinking, right? Sorry, not unthinking, and imagination, right? So create a scene. Can be, you know, nice, short, simple scene. Don't overcomplicate it, because overcomplication is just going to lead to the creation of self-doubt, right? Not to say that self-doubt is completely a bad thing. It all depends upon your perspective of it. If self-doubt is a sign to you that your old identity is trying to come back, that's a good sign, because if your identity is trying to come back, it just means that you're very close to your new identity, to your new state of consciousness, to your new frequency. Now, without going off on too much of a tangent here, okay, after you created this scene, you're going to want to loop it. You're going to want to loop it until you don't feel emotion from the scene anymore. Because like I said, the only language your subconscious mind speaks is emotion. And if you're not feeling emotion from the scene, it's not going to feel real to you, because you shouldn't see it as visualizing. Because that's probably what popped up in your head when I mentioned the technique, visualizing, that word. You should not see it as visualizing, because you need to get to a point where, or you just need to come to the realization that reality is you. Life is you. Life stems from you. So therefore, it is you. It is not the physical world around you. The physical world around you already come to the conclusion that it's an illusion. Oh shit, that's a bar. Write that down. Anyways, the physical world around you is an illusion, because it only constitutes 0.0095% of reality, which is barely anything. So that means there are invisible forces around you that are at work, that are at play here. And how you can take into account and take into use those invisible forces is through your mind. Now, doing this with the seeing, like I said, abuses the fact that your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between imagination and reality, and abuses the fact that your subconscious mind has no concept of a past or a future. It only knows a present. It only knows the now. So after you have looped the scene and you've done it until the point where you don't feel any emotion anymore, don't put a timer on it. Just keep doing it until you don't feel an emotion anymore. And in the process of the loop, right, when it ends and then when it begins again, you can just make it a simple blink, because we blink all the fucking time. It's a natural thing to do. And make sure the scene is in first person. Alright. This isn't fucking GTA 5, nigga. Alright. You're not, bro. Nobody fucking views their life in third person, mate. Sorry to break it to you. Now, after you have done this, right, you're just going to want to rest in knowing that it has already been done. Because, like I said before, physical world, illusion. It's an effect. An effect cannot affect an effect. The mental, the spiritual, those two planes are the causes, while the physical is an effect. And because you've already planted the seed, the simple thing to do to water the seed is to, as you go about your day, think a thought in alignment with the scene. The first thought that will come to your head after experiencing the scene, just keep thinking that thought. Eventually, it will begin to feel natural. Maybe at first, maybe not at first. It's different for everyone. It will feel like you're kind of, I guess, forcing the thought. But eventually, the thought will become natural to you. Think about it this way. That song, right, that you could never stop singing out of nowhere. At first, you probably didn't really like the song that much. You probably weren't even, rapping it or singing it that much. But because you continuously heard it again and again and again, it almost became a natural thing. It became a natural habit for you to just constantly rap it. Right now, what's what I'm thinking about in my head is Pot of Paper, a real back in style. That song it's amazing. Anyways, like I was saying, now that you've done this practical technique, all it takes is just resting and knowing the fact that it has already been done. Trust God to get it done. And that is all for today's video. Goodbye.